guys, my name's Jaylyn, and today I'm going to be talking about books that made me cry. The quote that I chose for today is, "There's more to life than books you know, but not much more." So the reason why I'm talking about books that make me cry is because the weather has been super gloomy here, and so I thought it was just a perfect time to talk about books that made me sad. So the first book that I have that made me cry is Specials by Scott Westerfeld, and this was like one of the first books that I truly sobbed in. I remember laying on the end of my bed just crying my heart out. Like, it was like shaking sobs, or like my whole body was shaking. It made me cry so hard, and if you've read that book, you know exactly what part I'm talking about. Oh my gosh. So the next book that made me cry is The Secret Journal of Brett Colton by Kaylin Mangum. And this book was so sad. I remember starting it at school, and I had to stop in the middle of TA, set it down, like, okay, calm your nerves, Jaylyn. You cannot cry in TA. It's not cool. And so I came home and I laid on my bed and I cried for 7 hours while I read it. And it was so sad. I just remember crying so hard. The next book that made me cry is The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. I just remember crying in the car. We were driving home from a trip, and all my whole family was in the car, and I was just crying, and tears were just dripping down my cheeks. And then I got home, and I cried even more. Next book that made me cry is Allegiant by Veronica Roth. I remember I was super mad, but I had to cry, so I cried at the end, and it was like mad tears. I remember crying up in the office, and I was up there because I don't know why I was up there. I was trying to do homework, I think, but I couldn't put the book down. So the next book that made me cry is Tiger's Destiny by Colleen Houck. I remember crying at the end of this one too, but this book frustrated me the whole time. But yeah, this book definitely made me cry. The next book that made me cry is Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. I remember crying so hard when he uses the Resurrection Stone, well, besides the whole book, and he brings back his mom, dad, Sirius, and Lupin, and oh my gosh, I cried so hard. I remember sitting in my bed sobbing, and it was uncontrollable. The next book that made me cry, this book. This book made me cry, along with almost everyone else. Mockingjay by Suzanne Collins. I remember I had just gotten home from a trip, and I was like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna read it, okay? Because I read the first two, and everyone told me that they hated this one, so I was like, hey, I'm not gonna read it. I can imagine my own ending. I got this. But I broke down like a year after, so I actually did pretty good. And I remember I ran downstairs straight after that, picked it up, and I finished it that night, or the next morning. I finished it really fast, but I remember going upstairs to eat dinner, and I was crying like throughout the whole dinner. The next book that I cried in is Where the Red Fern Grows by Wilson Rawls. I remember reading this in 5th grade. My teacher read it out loud to us. Oh my gosh. That's basically all I have to say. I remember sitting in class just sobbing my eyes out, and everyone staring at me because I was just uncontrollably crying. This kid started making fun of me because I was crying over dogs. It was so sad. Saddest, one of the saddest books I've ever read. The next book that made me cry, also in 5th grade, The Old Yeller by Fred Gibson. Now you have to like get in those groups for like how good you are at reading or something. Well, we had to read The Old Yeller. I was crying during that one too. Like they give you like certain reading time sometimes. And I remember reading the end of it, and this kid was sitting next to me, and I'm just like crying, like tears are rolling down my cheeks. He was like, "What is wrong with you?" I'm like, "I'm at the sad part, okay? Don't make fun of me. It's not funny." And the last book that made me cry is The Fall of Five by Pittacus Lore. I remember crying at the end of this very hard, and yeah, that book made me cry too. I'm kind of a crier when it comes to books. But I don't cry like all the time normally. Like, I'm not really a crier when it comes to like real life. But books just get me really bad. So those are books that make me cry, guys. Comment below what books make you cry, because I know there's plenty of people crying over fictional characters. I do it all the time. And so, it was so fun filming this video. Like and subscribe. I'll see you guys later. Bye, guys!